What up, world? Established Rich coming right back at you. Tonight, we got to get into a story that goes beyond hip-hop and beyond politics, because this is a story about a man who lost his son while in federal custody and will not be able to say goodbye. Let that sit in your chest for a second. We are talking about Eugene BigU Henley, a man who has been feared, respected, criticized, praised, and discussed for decades. But none of that matters tonight, because his firstborn son is dead, and he is begging the government to let him hold his child one last time.
4-year-old Jabari Henley is the son of Eugene Henley, better known as Big U. Eugene Henley once managed Nipsey Hussle and is alleged to be the former leader of the Rollin' 60s Crips gang. Police say Jabari was shot and killed near Figueroa and 69th Street after he walked up to a vehicle and someone inside opened fire before driving off. Police say his father's gang ties are a major part of the investigation.
Very well-known Crip got killed tonight. He has one son that plays for the Chargers and one son that does not. And I don't know which son it was that got killed. I think it's the son who doesn't play for the Chargers.
Jabari Baby Huey Henley was only 28 years old when his life was cut short in a Halloween shooting outside South Los Angeles. He was leaving a community trunk-or-treat event when somebody pulled up and opened fire. And inside the Metropolitan Detention Center, Big U had to hear that news through the wall. Through a pain no human being should have to face alone. No family, no embrace, no shoulder to cry on, just concrete, metal, and heartbreak. And that's where this story starts, with a father in a cell hearing that his son just got killed and having nowhere to put that pain. Because while most parents would be making funeral plans, Big U had to write a motion to the court. He asked for a small window, just a few hours, to perform the Islamic burial ritual for his son, to wash his body, to wrap him in shroud, to offer janazah prayer, and to stand over his child one last time. Any Muslim, any parent, any person with a soul understands how sacred that moment is. It's not a privilege, it's a duty and a final act of love. But the federal prosecutor said no. No, not with conditions. No, not with a negotiated plan. Just a hard stop. No. And their reason was cold, direct, and unapologetic. They say Big U can't be trusted outside the walls, not even for a second. They say his behavior inside proves he's still a danger outside. They're not talking about one or two missteps. They are accusing him of hundreds of infractions behind bars. They say he used other inmates' identification numbers to make phone calls he wasn't allowed to make. They say he had other inmates verify their voices so he could slip in and talk to people he wasn't supposed to. They say he contacted people he was ordered not to contact. They say he coached associates on how to use encrypted apps to hide their conversations. They say he tried to slide illicit photos through the mail disguised as legal documents. They say he kept up contact with his girlfriend despite strict federal restrictions. And then came the most damaging allegation of all. They say he coached his girlfriend into taking paralegal classes so she could visit him as a legal assistant. They say the goal was to bypass security and get access to him in a way the courts wouldn't allow. To be clear, these are allegations, but they are allegations coming straight from federal documents, and the government is using them as fuel to keep him locked up. They say he knows exactly which witnesses reported his behavior, which means in their eyes, letting him out, even for a funeral, puts people at risk. They say the private security team his family offered to pay for does not qualify under federal supervision rules. And for that reason, they say he must stay inside. So think about the weight on both sides of this. A father begging to say goodbye to his son, and a federal government saying he is too dangerous to be allowed out. This is a collision between law, faith, humanity, and consequence. No matter how you feel about Big U, this is a human tragedy and a federal standoff at the same time. When we're talking about this story, we are not just talking about crime, infractions, or federal paperwork. We are talking about a man who is fighting two battles at the same time, one in court and one in his heart. Because what hurts most is not just the possibility of life behind bars. What hurts the most is knowing your child is gone and you can't touch him, you can't hold him, and you can't send him off the right way. This is the kind of pain most people never speak out loud. This is the kind of pain you feel in the bottom of your stomach and in the middle of your soul. And when you look at Big U right now, you see a man who is caught between the weight of his past and the gravity of his grief. You see a man who has made power moves, street moves, and industry moves. But none of it can help him in this moment. Because in this moment, the government don't see him as a father who lost his son. They see him as a defendant, A risk, a man with too much history and too many violations. They see that RICO indictment. They see the 43-count federal blueprint of what they say is a pattern of extortion, fraud, violence, and manipulation. They see the allegations connecting him to the killing of Rayshawn Williams in 2021. They see the nonprofit claims, the athlete extortion claims, the entertainment fraud claims. And on top of that, they see what they call a trail of rule breaking inside the Metropolitan Detention Center. To them, that combination is toxic, dangerous, and unmanageable. So let's break this down slowly, carefully, and honestly, because this is where the story gets even heavier. The feds argue Big U is not just a risk to escape or violate terms. They argue Big U knows exactly who snitched on him about his jail infractions. And if he knows that, they feel what he might do if released, even just for a funeral. They argue that the people who reported him could be at risk even if he's given a few hours of freedom. They argue that witnesses could be threatened, intimidated, or worse. That's why they are digging their heels into the ground with a level of force that almost feels inhumane. To them, it's not a funeral request, it's a security threat. To them, this is not about religion or fatherhood. This is about control, risk management, and the protection of their case. And see, this is where the pain multiplies, because you have a father in the middle of his worst nightmare, and a government who doesn't believe he can be trusted for a moment. You have a son who died in the streets of South Los Angeles, who will never come back. And you have a father who will never get the chance to stand over his body and say, I love you, son. Goodbye. This ain't about gangs. This ain't about record labels, entertainers, or athletes. This is about a family grieving while the legal system calculates risk. This is about religious rights colliding with federal guidelines. And sometimes in cases like this, there is no clear winner. Let's talk about the emotional reality inside that cell. Let's talk about what loss feels like when you are completely confined. When you lose a child out here in the free world, you have people to hold you up. You have a couch to fall on, a shoulder to cry on, a room to be still in. But when you lose a child in jail, you have nothing. The walls stare back at you and do not care. You still have count time and you still got lockdown. And that is the most inhumane part of this entire story. A man can be losing everything inside his heart and the system treats it like another day on the job. Now let's get deeper into what the family requested. They didn't ask for freedom. They didn't ask for a vacation. They didn't ask for a week outside. They asked for a highly restricted plan, straight from the court documents. They offered private security at their own cost. They offered electronic monitoring. They offered direct transportation from the jail to the funeral and back. No detours. He would be surrounded by security the entire time. He would be barred from speaking to anybody but immediate family. No phone, no social media, no meetings, no public movement. Just a father, a son, a shroud, a prayer, and a few hours of humanity. But the government still said the risk was too high. They say the plan relied on private security who are not considered appropriate supervision under federal law. They say his behavior inside proves he can't be controlled outside. And whether you agree or disagree, it shows you how unforgiving the system can be. It shows you how a man's past can close doors, even in a moment of tragedy. We are watching a man get crushed by two realities at once, his case and his loss. And no matter what the judge decides, something irreplaceable has already been taken from him. Because a parent is supposed to bury their child with their own hands. A father is supposed to wash his son, wrap his son, and say goodbye. But right now, Big U can't even touch his son's body. He can't even stand in the room when the final prayer is spoken. And that kind of pain does not go away. It sits in your spirit forever. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.